Toastmasters, distinguished guests. Today I'm going to talk to you about fear. Now, fear is defined as an unpleasant emotion that is induced by a perceived threat by your brain. It is there so that you can either stand and fight or run. But the fear that I want to talk to you about today is the fear that keeps us stuck because we're afraid of failure, we're afraid to move forward, we're looking for security, and a lot of times it does not allow you to reach your purpose on this earth. So what I want to do today is give you 5 ways that has worked for me in order to release the fear back into the atmosphere. If you need it in the parking lot or in your bedroom, okay? You just go and you shake hands with it, okay? All right, the first one that I want to talk to you about is building your willpower. One of the best books that I've ever written was a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. The author was a 35-year-old lawyer that got a heart attack and decided to travel to the Himalayan mountains and study the Tibetan monks, which are the monks that lived the longest and that he felt that they were most religious. One of the things he learned right away is the willpower of the monks, the lifestyle that they do every single day. And immediately after I read that book, I started to build my own willpower. I would get up in the morning at 5:30, even though I didn't want to. I would run, even though I hated running. I was afraid of the dark. I was afraid of being raped. But I got up and I did it. And every day that I did, my willpower muscles kept getting stronger and stronger and stronger. So to you, if your flesh is weak and you don't want to do something, do it anyway. Once you do it, it becomes easier and easier and easier. Number 2, keep the promises you make to yourself. You have to trust yourself. Plato says, a man is only as good as his word. So the best place to start is keeping keeping the promises, you make to yourself. As a life coach, I have a client right now that is going through divorce, and he can't concentrate at work. So we partnered together to come up with some ways that he can download all these things that he has in his head so that he can focus. So we started off by making a list of things that he can do. But once he makes that list and he picks something that he says he's going to do, he has to do it. Because if he doesn't do it, then the next time his brain will say, I can't trust you. So it's very important that you pick something that you know that you will do. If you know that you're not going to get up at 5:30 in the morning and run, don't promise, because you're just not going to do it. Start maybe a walk in the afternoon at 6 o'clock, which we can do. Number 3, take a journey down memory lane. Fear starts somewhere. We are born fearless. Children are fearless. You develop fear as you get older. We all know the little boy who saw the Superman movie. and puts on his mom's sheet and goes to the highest place and jumps. Fearless. My fear started, I had two fears when I was growing up. The first one was, in Sunday school, I listened to the story of Jonah being swallowed by the whale. And I was afraid of drowning and being in the whale's belly. Every night, I would be having nightmares about being in the whale's belly. Fast forward several years later, when I learned to swim, I was deadly afraid of the deep end. The pool looked like the ocean, but I conquered it. I did. Jumping in the deep end, learning to tread water, was the scariest thing that I've ever had to do. I'm not sure how I didn't drown by just heart palpitations. But I did it. The other fear that I had when I was growing up is about at 10 years old, one of my neighbors had a stroke and died. But when the paramedics were coming and the ambulance and all that, as a 10-year-old nosy kid, I was like right there in her bedroom. I was like staring at everything they were doing to her. They were putting the spoon in her mouth and stopping her from complaining and everything. And when she died, I was like right there staring. So the very night, I think she started haunting me. I would have these nightmares of being locked down and I can't move and I can't scream. And so I took the fear of dark and spirits with me until I got on a plane at 17 years old and left Guyana. Irrational, because we all know that spirits are not bound by geography. But my mind released it. Because again, fear is perceived. It's not usually logical. Number 4, use your imagination to imagine a fearless you. If fear of public speaking is what you fear, then imagine yourself walking across the stage, everybody's clapping, you rock, they love you, they're looking at you like you're Oprah, and just play it in your mind and dream in color. Because the more you see it and visualize it, then the next time you're really on stage and you're sweating and you want to pee yourself, then you can just play back that tape in your head and it will help you. And number 5, give it to God. I don't know how many believers we have in the room, but I'm a believer. God is my source. And about 10 years ago, I had the most irrational fear. I'm a Canadian citizen, living in the U.S. Sorry, I'm now a U.S. citizen. I was a Canadian citizen back then, living in the U.S. And I feared being deported. I would be dreaming every night that I would be laying in bed and there would be a knock on the door and someone will come and put me in handcuffs and take me away. Wouldn't even allow me to put on my clothes. I'll be going in my nightgown. The only thing my imagination didn't do is put me in the trunk. Obviously, I read too many movies. I watched too many movies. But at the very height of my paranoia, my pastor preached a message about giving your fear to God. He actually had us go through the act of writing your fear down on a piece of paper and physically throwing it on the altar, giving it to God. Because the Bible says, give me your burdens, your heavy ladings, and I will give you rest. So the premise is, Give your fear to God. Give your burden to God, and He will carry it for you. Now, the act of me taking my fear, bundling it in my arms, and throwing it at the altar, I actually did give my fear to God, and I never took it back. I stand here today as one of the casualties of the Office Depot Max merger. But I have no fear. In fact, I'm looking at life with all this possibility. I'm thinking that I am Alice in Wonderland and I'm at the 3 of life and I have all these different paths that I can take. I'm a life coach. I'm a realtor. I'm an insurance agent. I'm a salesperson. I'm a foster mom. I'm a Toastmaster. Yeah. So I have all these possibilities, and I'm incredibly excited about it. There's no fear of the past. I'm excited about the future. Now, not all my associates can have this positive energy. God has actually put me with one of my associates that is extremely fearful. She's 62 years old, she's a salesperson, and she's not very confident of her future. But she calls me all the time, and right now I'm supporting her as a friend. I'm supporting her as somebody with positive energy. And as a life coach, I will meet with her and we will put together a plan. Because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So in closing, I want to leave you with the fact that Tony Robbins, who is has always been my inspiration and my mentor, has a very popular fire walking session that people line up to go to and spend big money. And they do that because if you can walk on coals and fire, then you can do anything. But we can't all do that. But we can build our willpower muscles. We can remember where our fear started. We can make promises to ourselves and keep it. We can give it to God. Thank you.